Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to Central Iowa. Todd Claussen, Territory Agronomist with Calvin Asgrow here in the central and western part of the state. We're in the heart of Story County today with Brad Walkup in Brad's territory. And we want to talk briefly about what our season has entailed for 2011. Because remember that your season is directly correlated and directly related to what the environment brings it. So we didn't have the earliest planting season. Most of the planting dates are going to revolve around that last couple of days of April when it really got started in earnest, the 28th and 29th. A little bit later than we had the previous year, and on average we generally get people in the field planting in earnest that 22nd, 23rd of April. So we were a little bit later. We were fairly cool in May. Held back some of the emergence. We had some variability in emergence this year, probably at a little higher rate than we normally do. So we had some variability in plants emerging out of the ground. As we moved into June, June was wet. Out of the Ames location, June was the third wettest on record. Okay, so what does that do to the plant? It's going to slow down a lot of growth. It's going to keep a root system smaller. It's going to keep a root system more surface bound because it does not have the need to move down, dig deep into the soil in drier soils to move down to water. Also with that, it keeps a root system smaller in circumference, okay, making it more prone to feeding from corn rootworm larvae, and we'll talk about that in another segment. So we are cool and wet early. Then as we reached the July time frame, we started picking up heat units and picking up dramatic heat units. If you get to a point in time of July 15th, from July 15th on, we had a string of 19 days that was above air temperature 90 degrees. Out of those 19 days, 18 days had heat indexes of above 105. The coolest temperature in those 19 days is 72 degrees. So what happens in that time frame? We were trying to pollinate corn. We had corn going to tassel, and we had some difficulty in pollination. As an example, we do notice a number of things. We see plants and ears that are zippered. This was an ear that was actually sitting downward, just like this. Okay, so on the downside, I have all the flow of the silk coming out over the top. Okay, so the silk that are underneath here are not able to catch pollen. Remember what I said, how warm it was. The silk and the pollen get extremely dry, and when it gets that dry, pollen just kind of bounces off that silk, and so it's not able to capture. And then the more silk that grows over, the more buffered that side is. We have other pollination issues. Scattered grain, scattered kernel. Okay, you can see hits and misses throughout this ear. An ear, at 16 rows around by 35 long, it's going to have somewhere around 500, 550 kernels. And an ear like this is missing, at least 10 to 12% of those. So that's another pollination issue. We also then have some issues with that silk coming out late. And your ear, remember the ear does everything from the base out. And so I had decent pollination as I got up to this point in time, and then from this point up, the silk no longer pushed out, pollen didn't get caught, and the florets did not turn into grain. And then one of the most serious cases, we will find small ears that are both zippered and have been shortened up dramatically. So there are some issues with that heat that we have out here today. A couple of other issues as we are bounding through the 2011 season. Again, as I mentioned, corn rootworm feeding in single event rootworm traded products. Then also we have some disease issues this year. Top of everyone's mind is Goss's bacterial wilt, and we will discuss Goss's bacterial wilt in a separate segment. But late we had high pressures of gray leaf spot, northern corn leaf blight, anthracnose, and eye spot come in. So there's a lot of things that pressured 2011. Okay, so as we look at 2012, we need to manage for several things. We need to manage for soybeans, SDS, because our even years are certainly the SDS year. And in corn, we're going corn on corn. Particularly, we have to manage the Goss's bacterium in the soil and that level. So those are a couple things that we want to think about as we're moving to 2012. So that kind of wraps up our synopsis of the environment for 2011. So thank you.